down some fire if you had to.
This is the voice of one of Britain's most dangerous criminals, plotting to break out from his jail cell.
You know, so my last name, don't you? A-I-E-B-E-R.
A cold-blooded gunman who shot a British policeman as he begged for his life.
Get an ambulance!
He's taken everything away from me. He took away my whole world.
A fugitive who stopped at nothing to evade justice.
He was prepared to go to any means and any lengths to prevent being caught.
A prisoner locked up forever, but determined to force his way out.
He would kill anybody to get where he wants to go, which puts him a threat above any other prisoner I ever met in prison.
Boxing Day 2003, and much of Britain was quiet as millions of people celebrated the Christmas holidays. But not everyone, of course, has time off. In Leeds, 2 police officers said goodbye to their families and came to work here at Killingbeck Police Station. They were PC Neil Roper, and by his side, his friend and colleague, PC Ian Broadhurst.
I loved being around people and I loved helping people. And then when he went into traffic, that was him. He was absolutely ecstatic about it. He was so happy because that's where he wanted to be.
The 2 officers were expecting a relatively easy shift, and no one could possibly have imagined what they were about to face.
Ian got up to go to work, and just as usual, and he told me he loved me and gave me a kiss, and that was it. He just walked out the door.
We came on duty and it was a case of we expected a reasonably quiet day, bank holiday. We went out on patrol not long after we'd been in.
167, that's just it.
The officers were patrolling the east side of Leeds. It was a journey that took them down Dib Lane, a suburban street with a few shops scattered among the houses.
It was a case of just going out and, you know, bank holiday. If anything were serious at front of you, you'd deal with it.
These are the actual pictures from the patrol car camera, usually used for capturing speeding motorists. But now it's about to record a murder. The officer's car spins round to check a black BMW with what looked like a fake tax disc. The driver was sat at the wheel, reading the Racing Post.
And then it was a case of talking to him. If it had been all right, the tax disc would have probably carried on and gone on his merry way. We got out at car, I'd look at the tax disc, and then Ian asked him to come and sit back in the car. He put the window down and put him behind him.
PC Roper then radioed the control room, who confirmed his suspicions.
You've done it again. That was a stolen one from November last year.
The officers arrested the driver and told him he was heading for the station. What they didn't know was that this man was more than a simple car thief. He was David Bieber, an American fugitive wanted for murder. He'd been on the run for almost a decade. Now calling himself Nathan Wayne Coleman, he'd already gone to extraordinary lengths to avoid the police.
My hair started going up on my back because of his mannerisms. He was a bit too smooth, if you see me point, and his eyes were a bit starey. So, let's have that tape on.
Everything's been said in this car has been taped at this present time, all right?
Now the car's recording equipment wasn't just taping the images, it was capturing the sound too.
So, as my mate's told you, under arrest because that vehicle's stolen in a burglary. So, obviously he's told you that. So, where are you from, please? Are you from Leeds? Leeds, yeah. What's your country of birth, then?
And it wasn't only the driver's attitude that was making the officers nervous.
It was just the way he was sat, his jacket was hanging forward, and it was just like there's something there, but you don't want to look.
What have you got in your coat pockets, though? Have you got anything that you shouldn't have in your coat pockets? What I'm saying is I just want to see what's in your coat pockets, and obviously for my safety more than yours, because obviously I've got my back to you, haven't I? We are entitled to handcuff you, so it's up to you.
I just knew in my head there was something there, because I didn't want to empty his pockets out, so it was a case of he has to be searched, and once it's mentioned of them handcuffs, then he's not going to like it probably, and then we're going to have his hands full, so it was a case asking for some backup.
We don't like the look of him at this time, so...
I'm just letting you know I did not steal the car.
The control room sent out the nearest officer available, PC James Banks. At Dib Lane, Neil Roper got out to help the recovery truck take the BMW away. That left his colleague, PC Broadhurst, alone inside with the increasingly anxious driver.
Can you roll this window down a bit? I'm just claustrophobic.
I don't think they come down, to be honest.
PC Broadhurst can be heard whistling and tapping his pen in an attempt to keep the driver calm.
You have to try and make it look like everything's calm and, you know, try and be friends with them, if you see my point.
A few minutes later, PC James Banks arrives, parking his car where the BMW had been. It was time for Neil Roper and Ian Broadhurst to handcuff their suspect.
Ian got out of the front passenger seat and I went to open the back door, trying to put his foot out, which is obviously the door's open, I'm getting out type.
Stop there, mate. Stop there. Because we're transporting you, we haven't got handcuffs on you, all right?
No, I've got...
Claustrophobic? Well, yeah. I'm sorry, you can't sit behind us when we've...
I leant in with the handcuffs. I took my handcuffs off, and then as I leant in, there's a gun coming up.
Listen, don't!
Of the 5 shots fired, 2 hit Ian Broadhurst. The second at point-blank range as he lay on the ground. Then, all that can be heard is the clicking of the tape machine.
First bullet hit me in the back, which made me nearly fall down. It was like my leg nearly went. And then it were a case of grab your radio and just let everybody know what's happening.
I've been shot twice. I don't know about Ian, he's down on the floor.
167, that's received. We will get you an ambulance.
Can't tell you anything else. I've been shot twice. I don't know what's going on. I've got one through the back. We have
I didn't even look round. I wasn't exactly running, it was a case of just getting away best I could. But I suppose it's a case of, well, panic, adrenaline. You just keep going. Went out back of the old people's home and there was a big sheet of glass window and the door was locked, and I were, you know, you half contemplate ever trying to jump through this window. But I wouldn't have managed it. But luckily he didn't follow me because he was on his merry way.
The driver shot Neil Roper in the back twice. He shot James Banks once, but remarkably, the bullet hit his radio. A passerby found Ian fighting for his life by the roadside. She grabbed his radio and tried desperately to summon help.
Hello? All right, I'm a nurse. Have you got any thoughts? Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me?
I've got nothing. I've just come out of taxi.
Right, where's... Can you hear me?
No, make taxi.
Paramedics and passers-by fought to save Ian's life, but he died on his way to hospital.
I couldn't take it in at all. I think I started screaming. I don't even think there are any words to describe how I felt. I was absolutely heartbroken I was in shock. I couldn't even describe that feeling to you. Of somebody coming in and telling you that it happened to somebody you love.
The response was instant and massive, but the killer was used to violence and had escaped the police before. Would he be caught before someone else got hurt?
He was quite calmly coming back to the city where he committed this murder, arming himself to the teeth with ammunition. He was prepared to go to any means and any lengths to prevent being caught, and that worried us greatly.
On Boxing Day 2003, a full-scale murder hunt was underway. A suspected car thief had shot at 3 policemen who had tried to arrest him. One, PC Ian Broadhurst, was dead. Another, Neil Roper, was fighting for his life in hospital. Senior officers had sent forensic teams to comb the murder scene. But amid all the activity, there was disbelief.
Immense shock. No officer had been murdered whilst on duty for over 20 years.
Detective Chief Superintendent Chris Gregg was the senior officer on call.
We knew from almost the first minutes that this was as serious as it gets. We had got some great potential here. We'd got the stolen car where the suspect had been sat in reading the Racing Post. We'd got items in the car that we thought, in all probability, the killer has been handling.
The officers found 2 objects they knew the killer had touched. A chocolate wrapper in the back of the police car, and on the front seat of the BMW, the same newspaper that PC Neil Roper had seen him reading. Fingerprint experts began tests on the paper, hoping it would be the key to solving the case.
Inside, you've got a left forefinger on the inside of the page, and then you've got the left thumb.
John Dixon was in charge of the search.
It just shows that it's consistent with him flicking through the newspaper and reading it.
The killer had left his marks all over the paper. But would these prints be held on file?
You've got a case where you've got lots of fingerprints that we can actually program into the computer and search against the database. You get a feeling and think, well, if they're actually on there, this should really turn up, we should actually get this guy.
Dozens of officers searched thousands of prints, but every one came back negative. Hopes of finding a match were fading.
Most of the time you were thinking, oh, well, next one will do it, the next one will do it, the next one will do it. But after a long time you start thinking, well, to be honest, it looks as if this person isn't recorded.
But the officers were convinced the killer would have a criminal history. What they didn't know was where.
He knew how to handle that gun. He hit under that stress, that anxiety, with every shot he fired. So we thought this person has got to have some either previous criminal history with a firearm or some military background. He's got to have had some training somewhere. And if this wasn't in the UK, then it had to be somewhere wider afield.
The prints were sent around the world in the hope that the killer would be found. Back in Leeds, those closest to Ian were still struggling to come to terms with his death. His widow, Eilish, wanted to visit the place where he was shot.
It's not a nice place at all. Nobody should die there. And that is where